So we are now into section 7.3, which deals with systems of measurement, specifically converting units, right? Converting from um, one unit of measure to another unit of measure. So really it's three separate parts, this section. So the first one is going to deal with converting among American units. Then the second one is going to deal with converting among metric units. And then the third one is going to deal with converting between the two systems. All right. So the third one, as we'll see later, is going to result in inexact solutions, whereas the first two will give you exact solutions. Okay, so we use what is called unit analysis to change from one unit of measure to another. So what is unit analysis? It's basically using what we call unit conversion factors. Okay, now what are unit conversion factors? They're essentially fractions that have a value of 1. Okay, so when would something have a value of 1? When would a fraction have a value of 1? Only if the numerator and denominator are equal. Okay, so they're going to be equal, but they're going to have different units. So an example of a conversion factor is 12 inches over 1 foot. Why? Because 12 inches is equal to 1 foot. So this is a conversion factor because it really is a fraction that has a value of 1. What's another conversion factor? Let's say 3 feet over 1 yard, right? 3 feet is equal to 1 yard, therefore that's another conversion factor. And of course, any conversion factor can be used in the inverted form also, right? So 3 feet over 1 yard could also be written as 1 yard over 3 feet, right? I just interchanged the numerator and denominator there, but it's the same conversion factor, right? So all these are equal to 1 because the numerator and denominator are equal. So the idea is to convert from one unit of measure to another, you're going to start with what you're given and then find a conversion factor involving that unit of measure. So for example, if you're asked to convert 2 days into seconds, well, the first thing you'd say is, well, is there any conversion factor that I know that involves days? Well, I do know that 24 hours is equal to 1 day. So 24 hours over 1 day is actually a conversion factor that involves days. So what you would want is you would want days to cancel out. So the only way days is going to cancel out is if the conversion factor has day or days in the denominator. Okay, so then your answer at that point would be in hours, and then you'd want to find a conversion factor involving hours. So the conversion factor involving hours is going to be 60 minutes over 1 hour. And again, you want to write it that way so that then the hours would cancel. So then you have to find a final conversion factor that deals with hours, and that would be, I'm sorry, with minutes, and that would be that 60 seconds equals 1 minute, and you'd write that conversion factor as 60 seconds over 1 minute. And then you'd put all those things together, and you'd get something that looks like this. Okay, so I had 2 days, then my first conversion factor was 24 hours over 1 day. So I'd multiply this thing by 24 hours over 1 day. And at this point, days would cancel. Okay, so now my answer would be in hours. But now I need hours to cancel, so I'd use my next conversion factor, which is 60 minutes over 1 hour. Now hours would cancel. And then finally, I would use my final conversion factor, which is 60 seconds over 1 minute. And now minutes would cancel. right? And this is no different than what we did when we multiplied fractions, right? We're cross-canceling here. We're cross-canceling units. Hours cancels out with hours. Day cancels out with days. Minutes cancels out with minutes. And now I just multiply normally. How do I multiply fractions? I multiply across the numerator and I multiply across the denominator. So in this case, there's nothing in the denominator except a bunch of ones. So the denominator is just 1. So all I really have to do here is multiply everything that's in the numerator. So I multiply 2 times 24 times 60 times 60, and I'd end up with 172,800. So there are 172,800 seconds in 2 days. All right, you just multiply across the numerator. 2 times 24 times 60 times 60 equals 172,800. And that's how you're going to do all these things, right? You're going to try to create conversion factors to cancel out units. So the conversion factors that you should know are going to be all the ones involving time. So all the ones that we did there. In addition, 365 days is 1 year, 1 week is 7 days, and then I give you some that you need to know for length, for mass, and for capacity. And this table in a similar form also appears in our textbook. So you can take a look at the textbook for that also. But these are the conversion factors for the American units that you will need to know.